Gardening friends, it's now Monday morning, and let's take a look and see what our light experiment looks like. I haven't looked since yesterday. I'll take color off. Wow. So it looks like we've got a couple of beans going and a couple of nasturtium going, and I don't know how well you can see it, but this one here is turning kind of pinkish. The stem is turning kind of pinkish, and that's the one under the green light. So it may be that I am kind of verifying. The green light's really not the healthiest thing to try and get things growing. Otherwise, the red and the blue are doing nicely, and the violet is coming up slower and looking a little bit healthier. So that's what all that looks like. I also have one more. Oops, I gotta be careful. Well, there we go. I gotta be, what was I gonna say? I got one more thing. I was off visiting the family yesterday, and I got some cuttings, and I haven't transplanted them or anything yet. They're just kind of sitting with a little bit of water in the bottom. And so I may have myself some kind of vines hanging around here. So we'll see. That's that. Let me take a look around. Otherwise, that's it for today. Well, I suppose there is maybe one more thing. This is the herb garden that I had put in the window, and I'm hoping that's coming through, but a lot of these plants look like they're kind of lying down. I don't know if that's a lack of sun, if it's just because it's in the morning. I'm going to have to kind of watch this, but if things are just kind of growing and then dying in the window, that's not a good thing. We'll have to figure out the grow lights sooner rather than later. That's it for that. Okay folks, it's still Monday. We have a couple of developments, minor, but I just want to update you. This is the dark, and that's the light from that particular experiment. The dark, it looks like the soil's kind of coming up a little bit, almost like maybe there's a seed trying to pop out. I don't see any signs of, well actually, look at this one. Seed's kind of exposing itself on the light one. So it may have, maybe I put it in upside down and it's pushing down. It'll eventually turn itself and come back up. But that's what those look like. Also, while I was visiting family yesterday, I got a couple of cuttings off a plant, and I put them now in some water to see if they'll root. I'll eventually figure out which pots to put them in, but I'm running out of pots, so let me show you that. Here we have the 4 pots that I had that I've purchased already. This one over here is the bean that I transplanted last week. I keep adding a little water. It's still green, but it doesn't seem to be growing. Over here we've got, this is the bean that was under the blue light, and over here this is the bean that was under the red light. I did notice that the one under the red light, the leaves seem a bit thicker, a little beefier. The one that was under the blue light still looks healthy, but not quite as beefy. I had noticed this morning that the little nodes here that are going to turn into leaves, they were starting to burn, and I think what that is they were actually touching the lights. So that's why I decided to go ahead and transplant them rather than let them burn any further. So that means that they're no longer under the lights, but I still have a few seeds under there, and I was running into a problem. Let me show you. The problem, very simply, was that I didn't have enough extensions to get the lights high enough up above things, above the seeds that were growing. There's still a couple of them sitting in there. I left the nasturtiums in there, but the beans were getting so tall that there was just no way to deal with them. That's why I transplanted them. But in order to be able to continue to raise up the light up above, what I've done is reconfigured it this way. Now all the lights are shining down on the seeds, not just individual lights. At least it'll give them a chance to keep growing. And what I've got there with the original sort of planter, the popsicle planter if you will, this is up above this piece here, and I've got the lights propped up against a couple other lamps that I had. What I'll do is, as these continue to get taller and get closer, then I will drop them down. I'll put something smaller than this, and we'll go from there. So maybe that's it for today. We'll see. Okay, actually it just occurred to me right after I shot that the way I had that all positioned with the new setup, I still had light bleeding over from the exhaust hood, so it was going to be getting full spectrum light as opposed to what kind of amounts to a grow light. So what I decided to do is actually put it all inside a box, kind of loosely packed in there. Just trust me, you can kind of see the light coming out the top, and the plants are down below. They have a little bit further to reach because I couldn't put that other big box in there, but I can then put another empty box, just a piece of cardboard basically on top of it, and kind of seal it up so that the only light that's in there is the light provided by the Christmas lights. So I'll leave this set up and we'll see what happens with that. Good Wednesday morning to you folks. It's well, Wednesday morning. I'm getting the coffee up and running. Figured I should take a look at some of the plants here. These are all nasturtiums that are popping up. There's only one bean left in there that hasn't been transplanted, and it hasn't popped yet, so it may be that that particular seed was not viable. I'm not sure. By my count, I have transplanted 3 bean plants, and I have 3 nasturtiums growing in there. One that may be a little hard to see is this one over here. It's only about yay tall. And it's all running under something closer to what I guess you'd call a regular grow light, because all 4 colors of lights that I was testing before are now raised up above, resting on those lamps on either side, so I can continue to try some sort of grow light. The problem is I just couldn't continue with the individual color lights. So let's see what else we have. So I've gone ahead and filled out the rest of the area behind the stove with more of these little pots. I wanted to make sure I got them from the dollar store before they ran out of stock, and then I would have been stuck with an incomplete plan on this. So there's 7 of them total. That's got that handled. I've got the ivy, which I'm working on, which is growing right in front of that. And still a couple of leaves from the ivy from the original cuttings sitting right over here that I'm not sure what to do with those. I didn't want to just toss them right away. I may end up doing that, but we'll see. One thing that's really cool though is the bubbles in the vase that I have the cuttings in. So let me show you that if you can't see it. This was something I think I've seen before, but I'm not sure exactly what causes it. These tiny little bubbles. I'm hoping you can see it. There's even bubbles right up along the individual stems. If I could give you an extreme close-up, I could show you that, but just trust me, they're there. It's like some kind of chemical reaction. I probably need to research this to figure out, but it's just something really cool. I like to see those little bubbles. Okay, now, light versus dark. The one on the left is the one that's been germinating in the light, and the one on the right is the one that's been germinating in the dark, basically sitting in a cabinet. And the one on the right has, there were 2 seeds planted in each, and this seed is already up to this level, and this one's actually just crowning, so I've got 2 seeds in here in the dark. In the light, I only have the one, and it seems like yesterday it was at about the same level, so it's growing very slowly in the light. So I find that kind of interesting that this one's actually growing and popping up and coming up here in the dark. Maybe what it is until they actually put out the first leaves, they only really need the dark. It's not until they actually have leaves that they need the light. We'll see. We'll keep watching. I'm not so sure what's going on with the herb garden. Everything seems to be falling over now. I've been hesitating to give it water because I thought I had kind of overwatered it, but now things are wilting even more, so I guess I'm going to go ahead and give it some water and put it back in the window. And we have kind of an interesting result in the top versus bottom, where the seeds were either on the top of the water when I soaked them, or they actually sunk to the bottom. Usually bottom means more viable, but in this case it's the 2 in the front that have sprouted The two in the back haven't given me anything yet. So I got one top, one bottom that have succeeded, and one top, one bottom that have failed. At least thus far, they've not sprouted. So I'm going to give them a little bit more water, put them back in the window, and we'll see what happens. Good morning, gardening friends. It's now Friday morning. I got up, I pulled this apart a little bit to take a look, and wow, I am surprised. I've got 3 nasturtium plants that are going completely crazy. They've been sitting in there the last couple of days. I've tried not to disturb them, and they're just under this sort of Christmas grow light, if you want to call it that. And they've all just gotten, they do seem kind of leggy, but let me see if I can sort of, I mean, this thing goes up and out of frame here. That's one. That's the second that's going up and out of frame. They've got tiny, tiny little leaves on them, but wow, they've just taken off like a shot. So I'm going to have to figure out what to do, what my next step is on this, and I'll update you when I figure that out. Meanwhile, we have our light versus dark experiment, and believe it or not, this is the dark one, and that's the light one, which hasn't really changed. Try to ensure that they have water, but it seems like the dark one's actually going faster. It's sprouting faster. Now the other thing though that I noticed is the dark one doesn't have any real sign of green in it, whereas the light one, while it only has one of the 2 beans popping so far, is actually green. So I'm guessing what it is that plants are really searching for the sun, but when they don't have the sun, they don't have what they need to get that chlorophyll and have that green color. So this has just been kind of an interesting experiment. I think I need to repeat it just to see, because I mean, a well-designed experiment is repeatable. So I think I need to repeat this and see what happens with it. The transplanted beans are doing they're kind of okay. They're still green. They're not getting spectacularly large or anything. I'm really thinking the whole grow light experiment is working overall. So I think I'm going to go ahead and order up a grow light, and we'll see when that comes in. The herb garden has pretty much died at this point, and that one's been not relying on any artificial sources. It's been all real light, sitting in the window, just not quite enough to get it going. And here is the top versus bottom experiment. I've got 2 bottoms and a top. If you look in the back, you can see that the one on the right, which is a bottom seed, the seeds that fell to the bottom when I soaked them. So I've got 2 bottoms growing, and I got 1 top. They just don't look incredibly happy. They're growing very quickly. I don't know what to make of all of this, but they're out in the window, and it seems like the ones in the windows aren't doing too good. If I put them under an artificial light, they get leggy. So I've still got to figure out, I guess, the combination that gets them to grow nicely and give me some nice green flowers or veggies here inside my apartment. Good evening, gardening friends. It's now Saturday. It's rather late. It's almost Sunday. I wanted to wrap this up for the week and just kind of give you a couple of quick updates and let you know what's going on. You can see the remaining nasturtium that's growing in the popsicle planter experiment with the Christmas grow lights. It's looking healthy. It's a little bit taller, and that's it for this one. Here is the majority of the kitchen experiments. The plants seem to be holding on. The only one that's not really doing so well is the white pot in the middle over here. That one, I think what happened there was the leaves on that particular sprout had pretty much died off, and so it's not able to pull in any energy. It's still green, but it doesn't appear to be doing anything else. The nasturtiums, one of them has not fallen so much. I think just under its own weight. It wasn't really crawling upwards. As I recall, nasturtiums from what I've done in the past years in the big hanging planters at the old apartment complex would tend to trail and then come back up again as they were seeking sun. And I've got one over, let's see, actually you can probably see it here. Let me move that out of the way. And I've got this little bit here, one more leaf that's actually it's come down and now it's growing back up again, so that's a good thing. It's seeking out some light. The experiments light versus dark, the old experiments, I've got all 4 seeds now. This one's starting to open up a little bit more. That was the light. This was the dark. And I've got another experiment that's actually running now, and that is I got some Swiss chard. You know, I'm buying seeds for the experiments, but I'm also kind of thinking, what would I actually like to grow, so I'm not wasting money on seeds that I wouldn't try to grow. And so what I'm trying is some Swiss chard, light versus dark. I planted those yesterday morning, so it's only been a day and a half, and we'll see what happens with those. The only other thing really worthy of mention is the tree, and since for the last couple of weeks it seemed like it was just barely sipping water, I kind of forgot about it for the last few days, so I just checked just now and the reservoir is completely empty, so I'm going to go ahead and add more water to that. The tree's not dying. It's maybe you can actually see the green in it now, but anyway, that's what the tree looks like. I'll add some water, put everything back in its original locations, and continue the experiments. So this is the Budget Gardener signing off and saying, may your thumb, even if it's indoors, be green.